Previously, Makoto was summoned by the goddess of another world, but she threw him away at the edge of the world because of his ugly appearance. Despite this, Makoto survives in that wasteland and defeats a dragon. She was captivated by Makoto after seeing his memories that he's from another world, so she made a master-servant pact with him that turned her into her human form. And soon a black spider also joined Makoto as she became interested in how rough Makoto is. Makoto was surrounded by various species but not human, so he got sick of it and found a human village, but he couldn't even communicate with them as they mistook him for a demon lord. It's all because of that crappy goddess. She gave him the ability to know every language except human language. Even so, Makoto entered that village in a disguise with his mana concealed and saved 4 people who were used as an experiment, but in the process both Mio and Tomo destroyed the town to prove who the stronger one. Now that Zetsuya town had become a wasteland, Makoto and everyone traveled to the next town to get another guild card. Well, Hazel made up the story to the guild registrar that the Zetsuya town had been destroyed by monster and Makoto and the two had just registered there as an adventurer. But the town had been destroyed before they could have published their info, so they'll have to re-register in the town named Sige. Well, if Tomo and Mio stayed together, they were bound to destroy the town as well in their rivalry, so Makoto simply tricked Tomo with a historical samurai story to send her away for training. While their group hit the road to get to the town of Sigale, on the road they came across a rare type of ant known as ruby eyes. Well, Mio was up to take out those bugs, but every part was considered money, so Makoto took up the job. But 4 of them weren't convinced that a level 1 could take out rare hunt like ruby eyes, and Makoto heard everything, so he sharply took out those ruby eyes with minimum damage. It was a rare hunt, so Makoto also took a share in it. Then arriving in the Sige, the first thing Makoto did was to get his registration done, but yet he was still at the rusty level 1. He browsed the guild jobs and found a perfect one. It was to deliver the eyes of ruby eyes, and Makoto happened to hunt them just recently. Then there comes the moment to part ways. But before that, Toa and the other made a plan to have a nice dinner together for the last time. But their Toa warns him about the job he took earlier was from the Rembrandt trading group. Well, there were rumors for Rembrandt and they were not the good ones, so Makoto went off to get some supply beforehand. And Mio was planning to break his bed before Makoto arrived so that they could sleep in the same bed. But unfortunately Makoto arrives and her plan fails as Makoto directly goes to sleep, crushing her desires. Then the next day in the demi-plane, the development was going rather smoothly. And the dwarfs had also made some shining armor for Makoto, but his interest lies in a cool stuff like this coat. And his choice was unknowingly perfect for him, as this coat absorbs users' mana as well as changes color. While it's blue it helps the owner in power, but if it's turned red it boosts agility and speed, but it got ripped off quite easily as it was overwhelmed by Makoto's mana. So Rug Yuri was set to make an even stronger version of that coat that could kill Makoto instantly by draining his mana. After that, Makoto went to the Rembrandt company to deliver the goods. But the owner, Patrick, thought Makoto was just messing with them because a level 1 can't defeat the ruby eyes, but his doubts went away when Makoto showed him the goods. Because he needed those eyes to make a rare medicine to cure a cursed disease that his wife and child had. This medicine was created from the ambrosia flower, but they are hard to come by, so ruby eyes make a perfect substitute, so Makoto told him he could bring in an alchemist who could help him. And hearing this, they got their hopes of saving his daughters and wife. Well, the job here was done and Makoto left to register at the Merchants Guild. Makoto needed to clear out 2 tests before he could obtain a merchant card, and the first was the written test. And the guild registrar sold the manual book on the test questions to Makoto for a high price, but seeing that the questions in it were a waste of money, Makoto requested to take the written test right away because all the questions in it could be easily solved by a grade schooler. Then his examiner was shocked as he saw Makoto complete the test instantly and with a full score. The education level of this world is the lowest. Then now Makoto, he only needed to bring in some rare items to obtain the card, and luckily there was some left over from ruby eyes, so showing them Makoto got his merchant card. Then, aside from him, Tomo was going all out on their training as she took out a giant crab. In Japanese history, crabs were a cuisine, so Tomo brought it back to demi-plane to try it out. But as everyone was munching it down, Emma came in running to tell her that Mio was in the chamber where Tomo had kept all the memories of Makoto she had copied. Tomo runs down to that room and worry, but sees that Mio is just translating the memories, so it was Tomo's job and she took leave for training. But right now she's just ditching her job because she's enjoying her meal, and if Makoto found out, she'd be scolded again, so Tomo returns to her job. but as soon as Emma left, she was about to watch some historic drama, but then Makoto also enters the demi-plane to get the report on the city he was building. An illusion city surrounded by fog to sell demi-plane's goods to the outside world, but then Tomo telepathically calls Makoto because Mio was out of control. She had just watched some anime and now she wanted more, but Tomo didn't have time to copy those memories and she refuses to take any orders from her. So she threatened her that she would eat those historic dramas that Tomo enjoys. Then seeing Makoto, both surrounded him with their own set of complaints. But Makoto snapped at both of them and resolved their cat fight, but Tomo had a long lecture right up ahead for abandoning her training as well as her job. Then three of them returns to real world. Makoto promised to introduce Hazel, the alchemist, to Patrick, so in the early morning Makoto met up with Hazel and arrived at Patrick's mansion, just as Hazel began his job to make the medicine. And as the first dose was completed, the butler went to Patrick to show it to him. But in the meantime, Hazel created another too, but the problem is that he's clumsy, but luckily Makoto had him covered. Then he saw how bad his family's situation was with that cursed disease that his wife would attack at him. To this point, that curse had her maid go crazy. So Makoto offers up his help in subduing her to give him a chance to give the medicine. Patrick accepted his help, and Makoto used a bloody handkerchief to lure his wife out, and with the judo style Makoto locked her, and Patrick gave her that medicine, which instantly worked on her. Now, for another girl, his daughter, it goes the same as the previous one, but the last one had kept her sanity even in that much pain, but sadly it did not take long before she also attacked, giving an opening for Makoto and Patrick to heal her as well. With that, Patrick's family was finally saved, and since Makoto also wanted to be a merchant, he offered his full support to him. Meanwhile, Makoto got attacked on his way out. Those were all adventurers, so Mio steps out of this and joins them. As such they attack Makoto and Tomo. Not knowing fully how monsters they were and were beaten to pulp, the mage was about to teleport away but Makoto prevented it. His name is Latte, and he's the one who used the cursed disease on Patrick's family for revenge because he continues to exploit those adventurers from orphanage. But he only planned to put those three to sleep, but the one who gave him that potion, that witch doctor, was the real culprit because Latte only planned to put them to sleep, not to kill them. So Tomo looked at his memories to confirm it and then Makoto became a mediator so that Latte could apologize for his actions. Although his actions were bad but his intention was to save those from the orphanage, so Tomo offers him to work as a spy for her in exchange for her taking care of that orphanage. And Latte couldn't refuse the offer, so now everything was back to normal, but the people of the demi-plane were demotivated because of these three. They went Toto train orc and lizard men, they always went rough on their training and even because of it they weren't able to land a single hit on three of them. Taking this into account Makoto sent Tomo to talk with lizardmen while Makoto and Mio were walking through the woods. They overheard an orc conversation. And what Emma said seemed to be true, that they had lost their confidence in fighting because they all trained with Makoto, and it was the same with the lizard men. So Tomo devised a plan to have both species fight in a one-on-one battle. Both sides sent their strongest warriors, and from the start of the fight, the lizardmen had the upper hand. But the orcs' brutal strength eventually defeated the lizardmen. But Tomo brutally talked down to them. She expected them to be much stronger and yet here they were. She made it clear that they are still weakling. So from now on they will fight one another every 7 days to assess their strength and weaknesses. Both species are rather protective when it comes to their strategy. But their tactics mean nothing now that they are serving Makoto. After that it's time for Mio and Tomo to re-register at the guild. Tomo was still at 1340 and Mio was still at 1500. They shouldn't be picky because Makoto is still in his rusty level, so judging by their level. Guild registrar requests that they train some adventurer because they are running out of high-level adventurers and it was all because of them. So Makoto took responsibility and assigned this task to Tomo to train Toa and her parties. They were already over level 100 so it won't take long to train them. Tomo quickly begins their training as she takes them out to hunt down Shadowtails. Their teamwork was so disorganized that only for this time Tomo gave them a hint to their success, and with her advice they really did make it out alive from that pack. Seeing that they comprehended her advice quickly, Tomo sends them to hunt down Shadowtail King. That guild registrar thought it was the end for that party, but they surprised everyone by making it back alive, more so with their advice, with the tale of 2 Shadowtail Kings. And Makoto is mainly focused on 2 things, that are finding ambrosia flowers and opening his shop. For flower he told Mio to find it out, and for his shop he gets to Patrick in the hope that he would give him a shop to rent, and for Makoto, Patrick had a free shop that he could offer up to him for renting. So, let's call it a day for now, but let's meet again in the next video, and for that, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates.